Hi, friends. Just a quick trigger warning for this episode. It includes mention of suicidal ideation, and if that's triggering for you, this might not be the episode for you. We will also include any resource links you may need in our description. Otherwise, thank you for joining our conversation today. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Chronic, the podcast, and our Chronic community.
Hi,
Jamie.
Hi, Meg.
It's a foggy day, and it's making
it hard.
On me.
Making it hard for me.
Oh, yeah.
A terrible song from our childhood.
There's a mild jingle in every single one of our episodes, I have discovered.
We can only sing everything.
Life is a song.
It's true.
Yeah.
How you doing?
Okay, Jamie. That was so depressing. No, I'm getting my ass kicked, and I'm been very discouraged the last few weeks, and using all my tools, using the toolbox. My dog is ambling around the studio, so if you hear gentle click, click, clicks,
You hear little tippy taps.
tippy tappies, Cusco's tap dancing in the corner. That's right. He's working on his Shirley Temple duet. Buddy, pick a lane. Yeah, it's been so challenging these last few weeks using every resource I have and still feeling like garbage. Mm-hmm. And so I have to sometimes let myself be a human being and be like, today I'm just not going to be the best. And
it sucks and it sounds lame, but just you have to take it one day at a time, one step at a time.
Yeah. My mom would say this sometimes and I would be like, not what I need to hear. Shut up. But she would say, hey, Meg, sometimes you got to sit tight. And I was like, bitch. But now as an adult, I'm like, oh, she's so right. Sometimes you literally have to sit tight.
To which I also do think your attitude towards it is still fucking bitch. Not to your mom, more just to the situation. But like
the situation is fucking bitch.
But you're probably more in acceptance of it as opposed to ruthless defiance.
Yeah.
But I must say, you are not dressing like you're dressing the opposite of how you feel.
That's right. It's our silent rebellion.
Look at your freaking jacket today. It's birds. She brought the birds.
That's right. We taking flight, baby.
I like that.
Thank you. I've had this for, 8 years. And I had the funnest discovery today as I was brushing my teeth. And I have never actually looked at the jacket. Do you have things like that where you're like, I never actually looked at the detail?
I'm looking at it.
And I realized that there's a chicken. It's like all these beautiful.
And a chicken?
Yeah, so there's all these beautiful parrots and peacocks and things.
And then a chicken.
And then...
Oh, that's a rooster.
I said rooster. But I think it's so inclusive that they were like, all these beautiful chocolate birds.
But that bird, too. Do you think there's a turkey on there, too?
There may be a turkey. We may have to investigate later.
We are.
And Jamie is doing a fitness competition on Sunday.
Yes. It's called High Rocks. It's in Anaheim. And I'm doing a 4-person relay.
So if you want to come support, well, this will have come
No, it'll have passed. So, but I feel your support, even though you didn't know about it. Thanks, everybody. But yeah, I'm really excited about that.
Hell yeah.
Yay.
Also, I just want to point out really fast, if you're watching this, the C is deceased. It's putting the C in deceased.
I'm not looking at it.
The green banana is muerto. Jamie can't make eye contact. It's
this green banana. Oh, I should have turned. I didn't even turn it on because it doesn't deserve to be on. This fucking thing just wants
dicking on the wall right now.
You should be following us on the YouTube Chronic_pod, but this green banana can go fuck itself. We were trying to be cute with our set. And here's what you don't see in, behind the scenes, folks, is that you watch our episodes. Wow, that sea looks so cute, doesn't it, though? And then guess what? I wake up the next morning and it's thrown itself off a cliff, a.k.a. behind my couch.
Yeah, so we're doing our best.
And this is what we do every week.
So anyway, I wanted to point that out.
I also wanted to talk about, well, first of all, you, my good friend, had a musical improv show.
I had a musical improv show.
It was your first one, right?
Well,
not ever, but
it was just like I'm
class.
finally able to get back into shows.
And I went and it was so good. It was so funny. But anyway, so the show ends and we're just kind of standing there chatting and I'm approached by 2 people and I want to shout them out, Kav and Rachel. Thank you so much for listening.
We love you. Also hilarious musical improvisers.
But 2 people who came up to me and they're like, podcast. And I was like, oh my God, yeah. And I said, hi, I'm Jamie. And they were like, oh, we know. And I was like, what?
I was so excited.
I just wanted to say that was so nice of you guys to come up. Thank you so much for introducing yourselves and listening to the pod. I I'm very
Shout
uncomfortable.
out to everyone. I'm shocked by how many people are listening right now.
I know. Seriously, guys, the listening and reaching out and sharing with us and telling us, and we're just so grateful, like unbelievably grateful.
Actually, a lot of people reaching out, commiserating, sharing their experiences, being really open about like, wow, thank you for talking about your eating disorder. Thank you for talking about the spiraling. Like people are really being transparent, which I'm kind of overwhelmed by in the best way.
But it's what we've also wanted so badly, which is Jesus Christ, calm down.
I want to hear about your problems so bad. But no, we want to create community.
Yeah. And so it's just really cool to have it be happening.
Yeah. And I think that's the perfect segue into why we're doing this episode.
Yes.
Because full transparency, I just haven't wanted to get into it. And there's a lot of reasons why I haven't wanted to get detailed into my illness, which is funny because the whole reason I wanted to do something like this too was to be like, if I can map out what I went through and someone can go, oh my gosh, that's what happened to me, because I was in just such a dark place, not knowing what was what. So
you did also touch on this in one of our first episodes when you were giving the general sense of what was going on, and we say the word fatigue quite a bit, but you're like, God, I don't want to talk about it anymore. Even though like you do want to talk about it, but you don't want to talk about it. So it's a hard place to be.
And we touched on that in Bree's episode with her experience with cancer. It's like, how much energy do you give the illness, knowing that this is a part of my everyday experience,
right?
But I don't want to make it my life.
Right.
So it's this toggling.
It's not what identifies you.
No, I don't want to identify as someone with an illness, but then, sometimes I feel like I'm living two lives. I feel like internally I'm Jekyll and Hyde, just like, just flip-flopping into, sometimes I can't believe this is my reality. And I don't say that from a victim perspective. I just, like these last few weeks where I've been so deep in symptoms, I'm literally sometimes home alone just being like, I can't comprehend that this is my life.
Yeah.
Especially after 2 years. And I'll start to get upset and cry a little bit because I can't connect the dots of like this person I knew myself as my whole life, of just like athlete, beast. I can't connect that person with this person.
Right.
As much as I've done so much work and growth, and I've found so many beautiful opportunities in this illness to find new things, find new ways of being in the world. Yes.
But it's still hard for it to be your everyday existence.
And a friend of mine reached out because her dad just got diagnosed with an autoimmune. She said he's really going through the initial stages of grief. And she's like, I don't know how to be there for him. I don't know what he's experiencing. Could you share a little? And I shared, I think one of the first things is probably it's his loss of identity, that he's now in this new body and this new way of having to be in the world. So that's probably the number one thing. And she said, she came back to me after talking to him. She was like, that's exactly what he's going through.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if I've said it on the pod before, and I'm not going to get into my whole thing, but I have, and Meg's mentioned it, and I have too, that I've experienced grief in my life. And something I struggled with so much in therapy.
Recently.
Yeah. Something I struggled with was I just want to go back to my old I'm like, you're so all over the place, right?
Yeah.
And you're feeling all these things and you're reacting in all these different ways, and you're just like, can I erase this person? I want to go back to being who I was. And I would say that all the time in therapy. And my therapist one day, she said this nicely. I want to be very clear. I love her. But she said, I think we need to stop talking about going back, because
old Jamie,
she doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
That was her before grief. She does not exist anymore. This is who you are now. And it's not going to be who you are for forever, but you need to sort of start coming to terms with and like figuring out how to be in this new life. And it was a little bit hard to hear, but it's like, she's not wrong. Things happen to you.
It was like strict compassion.
Yes. No, she said it. And I'm glad she said it, because I was like,
it's about integration. You're like, oh, I have to integrate all these parts.
Well, it's such a bad hamster wheel too to be in. And I say that like that took work to come to terms with it, but it's a hard hamster wheel to be in when you're like, I'm just trying to go back. I want to go back to that thing. And it's like, you can't go back.
That's
there.
actually, I love that you said that, because that's the exact language I was using with some people that were supporting me in my Buddhist community at the very beginning, like the first few months of this. Where I found myself saying that, like, I just need to get back to my life. And then I was musing about that exact word and what that word means of, why would I want to go backward?
Right.
It was kind of this interesting light bulb moment of, well, I actually haven't been enjoying my life as it is.
Right.
Things aren't going well. And that's probably part of why I am sick. So why would I want to go back or stay the same? And so I started using the language, because they say, you know, spelling, it's like putting a spell on yourself, or really understanding the power of language. And so,
which I love.
So I started programming myself to say, I want to get forward, which isn't grammatically correct, but instead of I want to get back to my life, I said, I want to get forward to my life.
I love that.
Because because this is what it is. Bree said that in the cancer episode. This is the curriculum. This is what it is. This is the landscape.
So get with the program.
So get with the program and
figure out what that's like.
What is this new chapter? Because it's the only guarantee that everything is going to constantly be changing.
Yeah.
And I think you and I have both had experiences where the rug has been pulled out. Mm-hmm. I've had that happen a lot. And I don't say it from a victim place, but my family, we lost our home in these like horrible California firestorms and like COVID and illness. It's just, sometimes it's like, come on. But again, you gotta,
the cards you're dealt, and you sort of just like, all right, where to
up.
next? Let's go.
Saddle up. Yeah. So we're just going to jump into it and hammer this thing out. This was the reason I'm finally like, okay, let's do it. Is because a friend of mine who's a writer, he actually interviewed me 2 weeks ago because he said, I want to write a character who was a dancer who got long COVID and her world got turned upside down.
So cool.
I was like, okay. So we did the interview, and I don't say this to be dramatic, but it was the first time in these 2 years that I felt validated in my experience. And I hear this a lot with people that are going through long COVID, that because there wasn't any science, there wasn't any data, there wasn't any protocol, that people have spent the last year and a half, 2 years, just like, what is happening?
Yeah.
So, you know, getting gaslit, being misunderstood, trying to convince yourself that you deserve support and help and all that. But so having this person say, kind of more objectively and clinically, can you just walk me through month by month so I can look at a timeline? It was just so grounding and validating of, this was real. This has been happening. This is happening.
Yeah.
And now we're at a place where people are understanding this is a thing.
But like, I think it's interesting that he reached out now when you're in a good place to be able to like have those conversations with him that are so detailed and go back and go through it.
And it was still weighted. Like there were still tears with certain parts, which, you know, we're going to do a part 1, a part 2. Today's part 1, because I will burn out and I want you guys to burn out as listeners. But yeah, we'll have part 2 in the next episode, and I'll kind of give you the structure. Part 1 is going to be from like inception to a midpoint, which was when I started to get more resources and have a turning point.
Yeah. And also, I just want to say that you may not hear a ton from me in these episodes because I really just want to let Meg tell her story. Jamie's gonna shut the fuck up. Wow.
Aw, but you can talk to me later though. Okay. When we go looking for disco outfits.
We're going shopping.
Get in, loser. We're going shopping. When I tell you, one time when I came home from New York, my brother picks me up. My brother's a diesel mechanic in like ag
like a big guy
NorCal.
Too, right?
He's a big ass cowboy. He picks me up in his enormous diesel truck in his cowboy boots with his cowboy hat, pulls up to SFO. This truck pulls up. He stops, rolls the window down, and he screams out the window, "Get in, loser, we're going shopping." I love this man.
I love that mental image.
I love my brother so much. He's so funny. He's so stupid. It was the
best
moment.
Can we get him on the pod?
Oh, we should for sure get him on the pod.
I want to meet him.
Shout out Jake Buzza.
Come on, Jake Buzza.
D-Bar Diesel. If you're in Northern California and you have Cummins or Peterbilt equipment.
And you are in need of diesel.
A diesel mechanic.
Which I have to imagine is so much of our audience.
Can you imagine right now our whole audience is in New York and LA like, ooh, what?
I don't even.
Oh, Jake's up there wrenching and I'm down here.
Wrenching in other ways.
Wrenching through my life.
There you go. The buzzes are wrenching.
Let's get into it.
Let's get into it.
So this is 2022. Why did I say 2000?
You want to make sure everyone knows it's not 1922?
No, this was not in the 1900s. I digress. Meg, just tell the story. You can see how much I don't want to tell the story because I've been bopping around it.
Oh, meanwhile, I'm just like, we're not a succinct podcast. You don't come here to be like, to the point.
No.
20 minutes.
No, they do not come for that. But they stay for
the lulz.
She meant to say Ratatouille, but now Geppetto has stuck.
And it has not left.
Okay, so it's 2022, June. And I spend most of June feeling like I have a flu. I'm just knocked out, but it's not flu symptoms. I'm just like wiped out, sick. And I'm on the couch.
COVID didn't
I tested COVID constantly. I wasn't COVID freaked out the whole pandemic.
She gestures to me.
I wasn't like crazy. No, I think it was very rational that you were going through what you were going through.
Yeah, okay.
So I tested religiously, home tests. I would swing by Kaiser. I just, I wanted to make sure that I was knowing if I had an infection or not. No COVID, no COVID, no COVID. This is the whole time I've never tested positive for COVID, never been sick the entire time, which is wild. So anyway, I spent all of June 2022 just pretty wiped out, like, and telling people like, I just think I have like a weird flu or something. I'm just like, Then July 2nd or 4th, I forget the actual date, I went for a aggressive hike with my then partner. And I remember being about halfway up the hill and all of a sudden my chest just like erupts in horrible pain. Whoa. Horrible pain. It felt like you'd run the hardest mile of your life in the freezing cold. And I was like, am I out of shape? Like what's going on? And I think it was like the next 3 days, it was just like boom, power down. Like when Luke Skywalker is at the power core and he's just going boom. That's literally how I felt. Someone was just shutting down my power core.
That's wild.
And I wake up and it was over. It was like this, my body had just turned off. No systems go. So
That's wild.
I wake up, I can barely sit up. I can't get out of bed. I have this horrific chest pain. I'm like my brain, I can't think straight. I'm shaking.
Oh my God.
Can't breathe, like cannot get a breath, cannot get a full breath. Feels like I'm breathing into a pillow. And
so scary.
It was wild. And again, I'm like, this is just, I had said this to the guy that interviewed me. I grew up in a family that was like, rub some dirt in it. That was totally
walk it off.
Walk it off. If you're sick, go to school. Like it was just, and then as a dancer, very much like you dance through injuries. Like I know how to push through pain very, very well.
Well, I also feel like as women too, like we don't really but like beauty is pain, life is pain, being a woman is pain. So I feel like it's so, to be a woman, just to be like, I'll wait till it's like I really can't.
I'll wait
do
till
anything,
I'm bleeding out,
right?
Ebola
to do
status.
something, and even then,
like
I'm sure it's fine.
So that's what it was. But I think I wrote it out that day. So the next day it was really equally bad, and now I'm starting to get anxious because of the chest stuff that's happening. So I call the advice nurse, which. Guys, I didn't know that you can just call the advice nurse and she'll talk to you.
What's an advice nurse?
You can call Kaiser, or I don't know if this is true with other hospitals, but you can call the number on the back of your card and you can call the direct line to the advice nurse and she'll just ask you questions about what's happening. And then she'll give you the best. She'll say either go to the emergency department or go to urgent care, which are different, or just schedule something with your doctor.
So you can just ask an actual medical professional,
talk
like,
to person.
Is something wrong with me?
Yeah.
Instead of going in somewhere?
Yes.
Whoa.
Which I didn't know, but physically I couldn't go in. So
right.
I was like, I guess I'll finally use this. So she said to me, of course, anytime you say you're having chest pain, people are like, go to the hospital right now. So I did. I went to emergency department.
Did you drive yourself?
No, my partner did at the time.
Good.
Before he kind of fell off the face of the earth, but sorry. You know who you are. Might cut that out. So my partner, he drove me to the emergency department because he had to basically carry me in.
Wow.
They saw me right away and they ran a bunch of blood tests. Of course, they ran a
EKG or whatever that is.
They like tested the heart. The heart was fine. And again, we're a year and a half into the COVID epidemic. So they've been seeing some of this, but my doctor, she was amazing. She was just like, I'm so sorry, but literally nothing is showing up as an issue. But knowing that people have been having weird symptoms, I want to keep tabs on you. And then the only thing that did show up that I didn't really connect the dots till later was that she did an orthostatic test. I didn't hear the word POTS until a few months ago, which is
postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome.
That's correct.
It's one of a group of disorders that have orthostatic intolerance as their primary symptom, and that is a condition in which an excessively reduced volume of blood returns to the heart after an individual stands up from a lying down position.
That's right. So if you ever stand up, everyone goes through orthostatic hypotension is a normal thing. Anytime you stand up too fast, you're like, whoa, you get dizzy. So she did a test. So they put you on a table and then they have you get to a resting heart rate and then they have you stand up really fast, or like some people, they'll like tip the table upright to see what your heart does. So she had me on the thing. She was monitoring me, the cuff. And she has me stand straight up. I almost fall to the ground.
Whoa.
And she looked at the test and she was like, this is the most off the charts I've ever seen. So.
And then I wonder, did she mention like anything that comes to mind besides POTS? If like,
no,
they see
she
that?
was like, I have no idea. I might research this, but she's like, I have no idea why that would happen. I'm like, Jesus Christ. So
Which is also scary when the person who went
So
to school
scary.
for years and they're walking textbooks
Yes.
essentially is like, I don't know.
And then she says, I would refer you to the autoimmune department, but you have to be showing symptoms for over 90 days for it to be considered like a chronic or an autoimmune, even to be examined.
Can I just say that, like, I feel like our country is working in the wrong direction when it comes to technology. We have self-driving cars. Like, listen, do you want to talk to your Lyft driver? Not really. But it wasn't really such an issue that I needed you to take the driver out of the car. But when are we going to come up with machines or tests that can test for pain?
Yeah,
Like,
isn't
why
that
can't
wild?
you go into a machine or put liquid in my body and find where the pain is and figure, do you know what I'm
Because pain's in
saying?
your mind, Jamie.
But you know what I'm saying? I think it's like
JK.
so wild that we don't have that.
Well, they can do. There are
But we
some
have
tests.
TikTok.
They're doing their best, Jamie. I am trying to be compassionate with the medical field because the more I research,
sorry.
they are working so hard, and people are like, we just don't know.
Yeah.
My cousin is an ND and she's in Idaho and she works specifically in a long COVID clinic, which I'll loop back, which was a wild discovery during this whole
Yeah.
thing. But she was like, it's so difficult to be a medical practitioner and not be able to help people. It sucks. So
They're doing their best.
they're
No,
doing their
and
best.
research takes a long time. I
it does.
know.
But I was at the beginning, I was like, this is fucked. What the fuck is going on? So anyway, I go home and this continues for weeks where I'm just in this. And my parents are out of town. They're in Europe. Living their lives. My parents are in Europe, and I'm like, I don't want to freak them out because I want to see if this maybe resolves itself. But they get back, and I'm on the phone. They're like, so how are things? And I'm on the couch, just like I can barely lift my head. Well, I said
I would be sobbing.
No, I was trying to be very like
Stoic.
So I didn't want to freak them out, but so I think it's been a few weeks. I can't walk, and they're like, what? You know, I'm like, and I can't breathe, and I have chest pain. And they're like, have you been to the? You know, they're going through the checklist. So my parents start doing, you know, Google diving, and they both come from a scientific background. They both got their degrees in like organic chemistry. My dad's a dentist. My mom was a nutritionist. So they're not out here just like tra-la-la flipping through Google.
Right.
They're trying to be very critical about what they're looking at.
Also, that's like anyone's reaction to like,
To start deep diving.
right. You just, where else are you supposed to go?
Right.
Right away.
So right away, what's interesting, the first things that pop up, and those of you who have long COVID, you probably heard this, but right away they're like, it's either Lyme's disease or mold or maybe like lupus. These things popped up a lot. And every person I saw would say, have you been tested for Lyme's disease? Have you been tested for mold? Blah, blah, blah. So eventually my parents get me connected to a NatPath, a naturopathic practitioner, which is alternative medicine. Allopathic means medicine. NatPath means herbs and things like that. So they connect me with their NatPath up north. She's a mold specialist. And so she orders mold tests, which is like urine and like a couple other things. And that takes a long time. So anyway, it's probably been like 2 months now. And I am like nothing has changed. No answers. They're trying to tell me to do progressive exercise. Like see if you can walk to the end of the driveway and back.
Yeah.
And
You
I couldn't.
Whoa.
So at this point I'm dying, right? I'm like, I'm dying. But
What
still,
else? How else could your mind not go there?
it's wild. And I'm also though, as a Buddhist, the whole time I'm like, I have to master my mind. I need to be thinking positively. I need to be looking for answers. I need to keep my mind right. So I was being very positive about the whole thing.
It's incredible that you have that as your background because
Thank God.
most people,
I don't know what I would do
Don't.
without Buddhist
Even-
philosophy.
even people who have faith that they're strongly tied to, I just feel like it's so hard to come from that place, and you always do.
Yeah,
It's really
and
incredible.
my aunt, who's an evangelical Christian, she and I have some great interfaith dialogue sometimes, but because she is also so studied and she's, you know, very much practices her faith, she says the same thing. Like she has a lot of certainty in the face of obstacles, and you know, I think it's how you practice your philosophy. So anyway, I'm so lucky to have been armed with that. I had my Buddhist community around me, constantly checking in, encouraging
nice.
me. But yeah, so at this point, my relationship is falling apart. It already wasn't great, but it's disintegrating quickly. So I'm kind of in this limbo of, I think I need to leave my partner. I think I need to, but like, do I move out? What do I do? I, at this point, was financially dependent on him because couldn't work. I was feeling terrified. I felt really trapped of what the fuck do I do?
How could you not? Oh my God.
I was freaking out because I was like, I know I have to leave this person and leave wherever, but I'm like, do I move home with my parents? I just felt so trapped.
It's actually kind of wild that you and Bree had such wildly similar situations.
Of last episode, Bree?
Yeah.
Oh, that's what we commiserated on.
It's so wild.
Because, and I have to say this to be compassionate, that I can't imagine what it's like to be in a dynamic where the person you're with suddenly becomes very ill, and how difficult that must be. But yes, we both were in situations where it felt like our partners couldn't handle it.
Yeah.
And it's devastating. It made me feel so disgusting about myself. I felt so weak, and I'm like, I'm not this person, because I could just feel myself having to beg for support, and it made me feel horrible. I'm like,
well, that's not on you that you had to beg for it, that the person you're supposed to like love you and care for you is sort of just like,
I think he just didn't know what to do, which again, I can look at it objectively from that brain, but the experience was, I literally would say that to him. I hate feeling like I have to beg for your support right now when I'm literally going to the hospital like on my own. Like at one point I went on my own for tests.
Bananas.
And it sucked. The whole thing sucked.
Sorry.
And then also at this time, because I'm also trying to give you guys concrete bullet points, I did see a traditional Chinese MD. She was both MD and traditional Chinese, and she pretty much just practices Chinese medicine now. But she did a bunch of tests, and she was like, your body's vitality is under 10%. Your body you are 10% from death is what your body feels like. And again, that was validating of, okay, from her medical approach, she does see that my body just doesn't know what to do.
Yeah.
And that's what she would say. She's like, your body can heal itself, but right now it doesn't know what to do.
Wow.
And so that was, a first glimmer of validation, but still crazy.
But nothing to really go off of that, right?
Right.
It's like, validated.
Right.
Your body is falling apart.
Great
day.
Yeah. Enjoy this tea.
Okay.
Which I actually did like the tea a lot. I love tea. I'm a teetotaler, which means I push tea. So we're like at the 2.5-3 month mark. I get the mold test back. I have very low levels of mold, but of course this nat path is like, you have mold. This is the answer. But I take the test to the traditional Chinese MD, and she's like, no. She says everyone has low levels of mold in their bodies. That's just what
it is. What it is.
She said, this is not enough for me to say you have mold. However, at this point I'm grasping.
Right. You're like,
I want to find
something.
And I'm telling everyone, I'm like, it's mold, of course, because I need to wrap my head around. You're trying to grab onto something because you're just floating in the ocean. So at this point, I have a conversation with my parents, and I understand the privilege of having parents that are supportive and that were like, it's okay if you come home, etc. And so we did make the decision that, okay, I'm going to come home for a month. I'm going to see this nat path. We're going to treat me for mold because that's where that's what's in front of us right now.
Sometimes you just need a jumping off point.
You
be like, if there's nothing else, then like, let's just try this and see what happens.
And so, yes, exactly. So ultimately I end things with my partner. I decide to move out. I move home. So this is September 2022, same year. I'm now living with my folks up north, and I'm going to see this nat path every couple days for IV treatments because that's what they do. So they give you, it's called like a Myers. It's a cocktail of things. But with mold, they treat you by giving you glutathione, which is supposed to like help the liver, some shit.
Okay.
Anyway, I've always had a sulfur sensitivity. Like I can't drink wine. I mean, I don't drink now, but I haven't been able to drink wine or anything that have like high sulfites. So the lowest amount of sulfites is, I think I'm saying this right, sulfates, whatever. The lowest amount is in things like gin and tequila, and people get really bad hangovers from like wine. And so if you're getting horrible hangovers from wine, you probably have a sulfur intolerance. Interesting. Also, guys, again, not a doctor. So these are just things that people have told me. Whatever.
This is from your experience.
This is my experience. So anyway, she doesn't do any preliminary, like, do you maybe have sensitivities to X, Y, and Z?
Isn't that like the first part of being like in the medical setting?
The whole time my mom is going, I don't trust this woman, even though she's been going to see another doctor in this practice. My mom's like, she's too quick to want to treat you. She's too quick to throw like 100 supplements at you, which on top of all this, it's like, I'm not eating at this point because
you're so sick and in pain that you're just like, bleh.
I can't eat. I have no appetite. My weight's dropping. And it's also, they're telling me don't eat anything inflammatory. So my diet's very limited.
Another journey to go on.
I had SIBO years ago. I had a gut parasite. I've had lots of like gut issues. and that those times had to be on restricted diets, which was so triggering as someone who's in recovery for an eating disorder.
Oh my God.
And I've been
I can't imagine.
I've been very solid with food for many years. But of course, you know, here it comes again of like, these are the only things you can eat. And it just feels, it's like, God, this is again. Wow. Okay. But so anyway, this woman is giving me these IVs and then she's pumping me full of glutathione. After the first treatment, I remember the next day, I could not lift my head up. I couldn't get out of bed. I was like, Mom.
In a different way than you had been feeling.
Where it was like, I have the baseline of I'm completely fucked up.
Right.
And now on
this
top
was
of
like
it,
cement,
I was like
cement
no,
in your
literally
limbs.
I was like, this is scary. I can't move I couldn't lift my arm.
Oh my God.
So my mom like walks me to the living room and I lay down on the couch and I just sit in front of the TV. She keeps bringing me like water and tea. And the woman had told me like, you may have detox symptoms, which can make you feel like crud. So I'm laying there like, am I detoxing? And my mom's like, I don't think this is detox. I don't know what this is. But then, of course, I tell the naturopath and she's like, oh, yeah, no, you're just having heavy detox. So we'll pull it back a little, but we're still going to keep doing it because your body needs to detox. And I was like, okay. And I'm just sitting in this chair getting these IVs, getting pumped to glutathione. And mind you, these IVs are maybe $300 a piece. So
you're flushing poisoned money into your
my
body and you're throwing it away.
I don't know.
Oh my
and
God.
people may have other like input on this, but yeah, at the time, so anyway, finally, I don't know what we're talking. I think I bring up the fact that like, she asked, "Are you drinking right now?" I'm like, "No, I don't drink." And also,
because
I can't
of X, Y, and Z.
X, Y, and Z. And she goes, "Do you have a sulfur intolerance?" And I was like, "Well, probably." And she's like,
I hate her.
"Oh, glutathione like is a sulfur compound." And I was like, "What?"
Did she have like any remorse about this?
No. So I literally stood up in her office and I was like, you're telling me that you gave this to me without doing any like
testing,
cross-checking, testing. And she was like, well, you know, now we know. And I was like, now we know? I literally told her, I was like, deuce. I deuced on her. And I told my mom, my mom was furious. And she was like, we need to ask for our money back, whatever. So you live, you learn, you move on.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
But you know, it was so now we're at the point of like, well, if it is mold, I'm just going to live with mold because I'm like, what are we doing?
Right.
But so now let's say we're in November 2022. At this point, I'm having some improvement. And I think it's because I was able to get so much stimulation and stress down. So I'm out of this relationship that wasn't serving me.
Right.
I'm not worried about how to make money. A lot of my
Not
environmental
in LA.
stress. Yeah. So I'm out in the country. It's beautiful. I have my parents. I'm very fucking blessed
Clean,
to have
fresh
this.
air.
Literally, like the dogs are running around. I don't have to think about Cusco. I don't have to think about walking him. He can just run and play.
It's nice.
So I was so lucky to have all of my stressors go away. So I did start to notice, I'm having some better days. Good. Oh, I can actually walk the dog or something.
Amazing.
But we're still in total limbo. It starts to be very difficult when you've been sick for a long time because now it's kind of this, people maybe don't believe you. People want you to get over it. People don't know how to help you and they're getting frustrated.
Well, for the other privileged group of us, right, who are not dealing with us on a daily basis, or honestly, those of us who like, you have a headache, you have a stomach ache, you have you have a cold.
Yeah.
You get over it in a day,
and you don't get spiraled out by it because you're like, I have a cold. I know my body gets better.
Right.
So you don't engage. You're like,
my stomach
sucks.
hurts. I'm going to take Pepto. Go to sleep. I move on. I feel great.
Right.
So like it kind of goes back to that, what do you call it? Instant gratification, right? Which is like a lot of over-the-counter things.
Right.
Like it's so easy to diagnose like this little pain that I have and then quick fix and then I move on and I feel better. So when someone is just endlessly feeling bad, you're like, hello, why don't you feel good anymore? Also for stuff that it's hard to describe. It's hard to relate to for those of us that don't have it. And you've been seeing a doctors and no one knows how to fix it. So like, what the fuck?
And that's where I felt so much guilt and shame and confusion. And I'm still having these days where my chest pain is so bad. I feel like I'm tasting blood. Like you're tasting metal in your mouth. So I remember I keep going to urgent care because I'm freaking out. I'm like, what's wrong with my heart or something? And that's where I am starting to see some research that's like, this might be a thing called long COVID. And it's like, And also a friend of mine that we used to work with, she hit me up in the DM because I had been sharing a bit on social media. Like, these are my symptoms. Does anyone have any idea what this could be? And Jess hit me up in the DM and she said, oh my God, Meg, this is everything I've had for a year. You have long COVID. And I was like, interesting. But of course no one is saying those words really yet.
Right. So you're like,
I don't know. But so I start looking that up, of course, which is
another rabbit hole.
But people are starting to say heart damage, lung damage, heart damage, lung damage. And I live in the world of I'll accept a diagnosis. I do not accept your prognosis. Right after I graduated college, my mom had a horrible cycling accident and shattered her pelvis, had to get airlifted. It was like all this, it was scary, internal bleeding. And they had to put rods all over the place. And I remember after she went and got the final surgery, the surgeon had said to her, this could be like a year plus recovery. You may never walk right again. And she looked him in the eye. My mom's a Buddhist as well. And she looked him in the eye. And she said, do not give me that. You cannot say that to me. Do not tell me I'm not going to walk correctly again. My mom,
you don't know.
You don't know. And my mom's an athlete. My mom is ripped. Like,
yeah, she is.
She never stopped. Just don't stop, friends. But she's like a swimmer, a cyclist, all these things. And so it actually kind of gacked me out. I was like, oh, Mom, this is too soon. But literally within a couple weeks of her final massive surgery, she was getting people to crane her into the pool so she could swim laps.
Good for her.
My mom was back in the pool after a horrific experience. But the whole time, you know, she was in a wheelchair for a long time and doing her PT. But she came back so fast. The doctors were like, this can't happen.
But I think
she decided.
I don't know why. I don't want to blanket statement this, but I just feel like there are so many instances where doctors do not give people the benefit of the doubt.
Sure.
They're just like, from all of my studies, because
Sure.
they are so textbook, they are just like, this, if A equals B, then C.
Yeah.
You're not going to walk again. And I feel like I see so many videos where people get into horrible accidents where they're, you know, paralyzed from the neck down.
Like
and
that guy that rebuilt his spine with his mind. That
they're like,
crazy.
they're just like, you're paralyzed. The end.
Yeah.
And then you see those videos of them trying as hard as they can for months, for years, and then they walk. And it's like, because they knew they could overcome this. So stop telling people, sorry,
or telling
tough
yourself.
luck.
And that's where I'm at right now is I refuse to accept. And at the time, so looping back to this friend saying you might have long COVID and then I'm seeing like heart damage, lung damage. At the time, that spiraled me. I'm freaking out because I'm like, will I ever have a normal life again? Do I have permanent heart damage and I'll never be able to be an athlete again? It was traumatizing to hear that.
Oh, of course.
So of course I'm still going into the ER. I mean, every time you go to the ER, it's like $900. It's out of control. But so I'm going into the ER and now I'm freaking out. Like, oh my God, do I have heart and lung damage? Is that why I can't breathe still and all this stuff? But I remember finally they did a CT scan and they did see that it had all this inflammation around my lungs. So it's called pleurisy. But that just means like the soft tissue is like rubbing against itself.
Because it's so inflamed?
Yeah, because it's so inflamed. So it can't tell you. It doesn't say like this is this disease. But basically the doctor said.
What is the point of this machine?
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
Well, it tells a lot of people other things, Jamie. But ultimately the doctor, he said, this tells me that you have really, really high levels of inflammation, which I've said pain is inflammation. Like
right.
if you're in pain, you have inflammation.
Right.
And so at this point, they're trying to rule out, I forgot to mention this NAT path. The one thing she did contribute was she said, I need to rule out that you didn't get Lyme disease at some point because as she's doing the thorough history and I tell her I had Bell's palsy, she was like, ooh, red flag. Because often Bell's palsy can happen if you get Lyme's disease. But I had Bell's palsy in 2009, so long ago.
Right.
And I've been healthy since for the most part. So she's like, I just want to rule it out. So you have to advocate for yourself and get special tests from Kaiser. Well, for me, it was Kaiser. They had to do this whole other spectrum of blood tests. They took so many vials of blood. But again, the markers showed, no, it's not Lyme's disease.
That's
so,
good.
Okay, get that out. So
hey,
again,
one piece of good news.
Yeah. So if you are going through anything that sounds like this, rule out Lyme's disease. They also ruled out lupus and things like that. Because again, if you go and look up long COVID right now or autoimmune. So I've been telling people without knowing what I have, I've been saying I have some sort of like autoimmune type thing because it mimics. And also long COVID can trigger autoimmune disease in people. Specifically, one of the major ones is lupus. They say that it's very confusing to diagnose long COVID because a lot of people have other conditions. And also if you're an overweight, sickly, older gentleman versus me, 33, fit young person, I have a much shorter, actually, so I'm including a link. It's a video from the University of Texas Medical, and it's great. Actually, I just found it a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
And it was really encouraging. It's one of the head doctors there. And he basically in 15 minutes gives the best breakdown of where we're at with long COVID. And it was very comprehensive. And again,
validating.
Validating. But he basically says, yeah, if you're young and all that, your checklist of comorbid conditions is very short. If you're older and have things, it can be longer. So they have to rule out that there aren't other things going on.
Well, yeah.
I have no other things going on, so that helps me to narrow the focus.
Down.
So now we're talking November, December 2022. We do not know what's happening. I'm having better days. So that's very confusing. But on top of all of the physical symptoms, I'm having so much depression and just so much internal stuff going on because I hate feeling like a victim, even though I wasn't trying to play the victim, but being like, I need help.
There's nothing
Help
you can
me.
do.
Help
Yeah.
me.
And I would hope that people close to you know that if you are asking for help specifically, you need
I
fucking
need
help. Like,
Yeah.
you are so the kind of person, we're similar in that way that, like, I am going to try every single fucking thing I can possibly do. And if I really can't figure it out, I'll ask for help.
Right. But
Begrudgingly.
it's the last
It's a resort.
Cut my life in two pieces. This is my last resort. Go. I never realized how relevant that song was, this experience, until this moment. I'm going to be blasting Papa Roach on the way home.
Thanks, Papa Roach.
Thanks, Papa. Oh my God. Mama Roach over here. That's wild. Hilarious.
It's so funny.
But so yeah, and thank you, friends, for bearing with me. I'm trying to be succinct, but there's so many freaking like beep boop beep. The web is so complex.
We have to stop. This is not a succinct podcast.
Can we just all decide that now? Moving forward,
You don't
all
come
know
to
what
this podcast for the quick and short and dirty. You come here
sometimes dirty.
Sometimes dirty. You come here to listen to us go on and on and on. We just like to give you context and details, and specifically, no, this is your story.
I want, friends, I want to be giving, this isn't about me, oh, woe is me. I really want to give you something useful. And so that's why I'm sharing. And I know
But people want to know you, and they want to know. And the whole point of this podcast is to share and hopefully crowdsource.
Yes.
And we keep saying it, build a community and
Yeah.
find your people.
Yeah. Because
no one you're surrounded with has this.
No.
So,
and I want to mention that that's a perfect little connective tissue on this. That
God, I'm so good at this.
Jamie is it's like you practice. Do you practice when I'm not here?
Sometimes.
Jamie Tobias here.
Not my neighbors walking by and I'm just here alone in my apartment.
You have a mannequin of me just like with my mouth open because it's always open. So yeah, I couldn't afford therapy. That was crazy. That I was trying to find sliding scale. It was a nightmare not being able to. And of course, like, I don't want to be putting this on my friends and family. And I need a place where I can just dump.
Yeah.
And I can't. So I'm just holding it. I'm trying to hold it all in. And,
which probably is worse
it's worse. So now I want to give you context. It's Christmas, 2022. We have a family cabin out in the woods, but it's at like 7,500 feet. So all the family is there. I'm there. I can't breathe. I can't breathe at sea level. My symptoms, I'm like, kill me.
It's up there.
Kill me. And I don't say that lightly. I know we said suicide warning at the beginning of this, but I also wanted to mention, throughout this time, I have reached a point of like, I don't want to live anymore.
Right.
And I don't say this lightly, but most people that I've talked to that have gone through a severe long-term illness, this is normal. This is natural. So I want to normalize that for you, that if that comes up, please ask for help. But
yes,
when there is no hope, when there is no end in sight, and you are in agonizing symptoms every day, it's like, what is life?
Why
am I doing this?
Why wouldn't your mind go there
Yeah.
to be like, this feels awful and I just want it to be over so badly that you're like, just fucking end it. And I don't say that lightly. We're not saying it lightly, but you just can't but help that your brain sometimes just goes there.
It just wants it to be over. And that's every day we all want to get out of pain. And to not be able to get any relief, because also people are like,
for
months. And of course, my dad, he understands, like, when he does surgery on a patient, you got to give them lots of anti-inflammatories because that's where pain is. My dad doesn't like to prescribe like Oxy.
He shouldn't, because by the way,
they're
it
so
is
addictive.
Fucking bananas how so many doctors are. Just a very quick aside, because with my dental surgery, that's what they gave me.
You get Oxy.
But like, I had 2 bottles of it untouched, but it has that scary warning on it, and I'm like, if this has to come with a horrifying warning on it, and by the way, we all know, and they know that it's addictive, and they still are like, pew, pew,
made a whole
pew,
musical
pew,
about
pew.
it. Jagged Little Pill, phenomenal musical.
Sorry, anyway, go on.
No, so my dad, I'm
glad he is that way.
He
that
doesn't
he's
like to prescribe it. What he does instead is it's 72 hours of really high doses of Tylenol and Advil. And he said it does the same thing. It does make you sick. Sometimes on Oxy, you like vomit or you get constipated. So for him, this is not medical advice. I'm just saying that he's trying to prescribe this protocol. And I'm like, I don't want to be taking anti-inflammatories. It's not good for your guts, right? That's the term. It's not good for your guts. But he said like, liver. If you're in pain and inflammation, let's at least try and get ahead of the inflammation. Yeah. But then I'm seeing research that's like, if it is long COVID and this is what you're going through, it makes it worse.
Interesting.
Don't ask me how that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because I'm chugging anti-inflammatories and I feel worse and worse and worse. So I don't know what the mechanics are there, but hey, we're crowdsourcing. If you're a doctor,
if you know why
let
us
is.
Know.
So that's so
because I have to say I've wondered. You have said that before too, right? Because like when we started becoming closer and we would talk about it more, and I think I probably said it to you too because Lord knows,
pop an Advil,
guys. 3. I take Excedrin and ibuprofen like it is candy. My liver is absolutely Swiss cheese at this point.
Oh, gross,
I've been taking it for so many years, but like, I have a headache, I have a twinge of pain. Boop, 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 just take it.
I'm the opposite. I've always been like, I don't like to put things in my body.
Oh, I do. But I was just like, that's not dirty.
Yeah, it was.
It's the goal of the podcast sometimes.
The goal of Chronic is for Jamie to get laid. It's the whole.
No, to hold hands and kiss a little.
Oh yeah,
Did you listen to the last episode? Okay, so episode 3. Cool. But I was gonna say now that makes more sense because you didn't. Not that you should have, but you didn't get into it too deeply with me when I was just like, hello, take duh, and you were like, no, and I'm like, why won't you?
Right, and again, so now I'm like, I am
duh because
trapped.
you're like, meh.
I'm in a dungeon of there is no relief, and so I actually the first time I felt better about feeling that way was I did actually have a fun little date last summer. Remember that? It was my first time kind of hobbling back into the world, being like, I'm going to try a date. And my friend and I went and played mini golf. It was delightful.
Yes, I do.
Jamie doesn't give a fuck. But so yeah, I went on a fun little mini golf date. This is so Bree and I from last episode, we have had this such a same. It's so
wild.
Weird. Her first date back after her
it's
breakup.
Not really wild because
I guess it's not.
Yeah,
because the universe puts things in front of you. But so Bree, after her like getting back trying to date, the first guy she goes out with is a guy that's had chronic illness. So anyway, Bree and I had talked about this, and you and I have talked about this of like, when do you kind of come out about I have an illness,
right?
And it's like I don't want it because then they look at you, whatever, not sexy. So anyway, I go out. I haven't told this person yet that I'm dealing with something, and we're playing mini golf. It's super fun. Of course, I have a horrible crash for weeks afterwards. Ugh, whatever. But we're nearing the end, and he's just asking questions, trying to get to know me better. And I'm just like, I need to say it because I just keep beating around the bush of like, why were you living with your parents for so long? Blah, 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 blah. And so finally I say, okay, well, we still don't really know what I have, but I basically have XYZ. And this is how it presents, XYZ. And that's like, this is my first date back. So also thank you. This has been really fun and mellow. And he goes, oh, I also had a illness for 2 years.
What?
And I was like, what? And of course I'm a dick. So I'm kind of joking. I'm like, he said something about, oh yeah, I had like a back thing. And I'm like, oh, you had a back thing? Like, just kind of like, because I'm over here just like having been through hell, right?
Right. Like a little back thing.
He always said I hurt my back. And I was like, oh, you hurt your back. Such an asshole.
Is that what you did on the date?
Yeah. I'm a dick. Not that dramatically, but just like, oh, back thing. But he's like, he stops dead and he goes, no, it was horrible. And I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm just being an asshole. I'm so sorry. What was it? He had this fucking rare nerve thing. And actually, I'm trying to get him on the pod because we're friends now. And I think we talked about in the last episode that like how different it is for a guy to go through the chronic illness experience and talk about how do I get caretakers? How do I get seen? How do I get love? Whatever.
Well, and if you've listened to the Bree story and she mentions that about the guy that she went out with saying
went through it alone.
He just would go to the hospital alone and she was just like,
yeah,
what? You went alone? Because men, and we're very much generalizing here, but it is so much the thing of like girls, take care of them, help them, and men suck it up, do it, figure it out, be brave. And it's like, baseline, everyone is a human.
Everyone deserves support. Everyone deserves help.
Everyone is human and it's okay. It's okay to ask for help and it's okay to need help.
Yeah. So it was really, really amazing. I almost felt like I was getting like cold water rushing through my body. I was like I actually exhaled and just felt you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And he said, I was on the couch for 2 years during COVID. No one could visit him. Not like he was just him and his roommate alone. And he just said like his pain was horrific. Like he had a nerve thing. So it was from all his legs. And he said, it felt like I had someone with hot pokers in my legs. He said I couldn't breathe. I was in so much pain for 2 years. Finally,
you're like, well, I know what that feels like.
I know I have glimpses of it, but like even me going, wow, that's worse than what I had. But he eventually, and hopefully he'll tell his own story on the pod, but found somebody who was like, oh, this is this rare nerve thing. He got a nerve block. It was a long recovery, but he's back.
Yay.
Alleluia. But anyway, at the time, it was just like, oh my God, to find somebody that fucking gets it. Again, I didn't have a therapist. I felt like I didn't want to talk to my friends because I just felt such a burden. And now, oh my gosh, we are on the windy path. It's Christmas. I'm on oxygen. I'm trying oxygen to be like, will this help? I couldn't stay in the mountains through the new year. So I by myself went back to my parents' house at sea level, and I was there alone, which do not be alone. Don't be alone if you're in this place. Don't be alone. Oh my God.
You may want to feel like you need to be alone. But you know what, though? I don't know if you can tell me if you think this is a good suggestion or not. Like, let's say you go because you want to be alone, but you shouldn't be alone. Mm-hmm. You try asking someone to just come over, just sit, be quiet.
They do say that. And
watch a movie. Don't talk. Just having something or something because of the dog, but like something or someone just alive near you to just like
have a life
be there.
Near you.
No, but like feeling, I know it's going to sound very dramatic, but like having another heartbeat just like next
Jamie,
to you or
I literally
near you.
Say that. I was like knowing that there's a warm body proximal to me. Yeah. That's all I need. I didn't need someone being there like, you want to talk? No, I literally, no one was around. No one was available. But yeah, for there to have just been a warm body, even in like in another room, would have been nice. But so anyway, I'm alone and it's New Year's Eve. And this was kind of the crucial moment for me. And that's where we're going to wrap up this part 1. But this was a do or die moment where I, again, wasn't drinking there during this time. Because if you have an inflammatory thing, don't drink. If you have any autoimmune,
feel good.
long COVID, if you are dealing with any of these symptoms, don't drink. Just don't do it. But of course, I get the fuckets. As my buddy who was interviewing me, he's like, oh, so you got the fuckets. Like how Brie did when she went to the cantina. Fuck it. So I had the fuckets, and so I make myself, I think I had like 2 or 3 drinks, which of course, the worst thing I could do. It was like pouring gasoline on a dumpster fire. Like
sometimes it feels good in the moment.
It felt, there was like a 5-minute of like, and then it was like, no. Awful. just a freaking like flame torch to the system. It was terrible. And then of course, depression is just astronomically higher all of a sudden.
It's also the fucking holidays. And
it's like, New Year's Eve. God, all my friends are in New York, or I'm not New York. All my friends are in LA. My family's in the mountains. I couldn't have felt darker. I needed to check out. I needed to unhook. But at this point, the suicidal, I don't want to live anymore, became like, it's an active ideation, which I've had active suicidal ideation in the past, when I was in my eating disorder, when I didn't know what my mental health issue was. So I've learned that I walk myself through it as a final motion of, okay, what would this really be like to do this to people? And I also want to be sensitive. Like I have had friends that we've lost people to suicide, and I'm not saying that person was weak or selfish. No. When you have nowhere to go and you don't have the tools, that's what sometimes happens, and it's devastating. And I want to be sensitive to that. I've had the fortune of somehow being able to pull out of it. So yeah, I pulled myself back from the edge, and I was telling Jamie this. It was an eat, pray, love moment where I heard God or whatever say, go to bed, Liz. You're like, go to bed, Liz. Go to bed, Liz. So I literally I said it out loud. I said, Meg, go to bed. So I went to bed, and then this is going to be our end point because we can now go into how things shifted after this. But the next morning, and anytime I've gotten to that edge, the next morning it's always the same where it's a come to Jesus where you go, okay, here we are. I'm either going to choose to live or I'm going to choose to die. And I will not live in ambiguity. Mm-hmm. And I always get this huge push of redetermination. So I did. It was January 1, 2023. Wow. And I just said, okay, I'm going to do everything it takes to figure out how to live like this, how to have a full life. And that ultimately within 2 months, despite still being sick, was like, I need to get back to LA. Because if I'm dying, I literally, friends, this sounds dramatic, but I was like, if I am dying, Because again, we don't know still what's happening.
Right.
If I am dying and let's just say I have a year to live, what am I going to do? Am I going to stay here in my parents' house thinking about killing myself?
Right.
No.
And be miserable? No, I'm
No.
going to live.
I'm going to live. And I actually, this is so random, but sometimes you are protected. There is something in the universe protecting you. I had gotten some money from the house burning down because PG&E was liable because they hadn't shut the power grid down. And that's what burned down like this whole section of Northern California. I had at this time just randomly, finally after 6 years,
At that time.
So I had this money to be able to go back to LA for I had a few months of cushion, but I was like, I can go back, still be sick, not have to freak out about work yet.
Yeah.
So, things kind of lined up and I was able to eventually come back, and there's a lot more details there, but it was this crucial moment of, okay, I'm going to figure out how to have a full life.
Yeah.
And now it's we're a year and a half from that point, which is
so crazy. Because when you came back, I didn't know the whole story.
No, you didn't really know anything.
I knew a really tiny piece of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then you came waltzing into my life.
Waltz is a generous.
Maybe just like slowly walking.
Slowly hobbling in. But yeah, I think, and I'm not going to say that passive suicidal ideation went away like all last year.
It is not like a light switch, bye.
No, but it was, every time I was in a crash, every time when it goes that long, you're just like, I can't see straight. You just can't see straight. You want to get out of pain.
Right.
So anyway, I'm good now, everyone. Don't worry about me. We're in a solid spot.
We're just retelling the story.
Retelling a story. And also, I want to leave people with, if I could go back, it would just be advocate, advocate, advocate. And I felt so guilty about applying for disability because I was like, again, no one can give me a diagnosis. No one can give me any kind of like clarity. And so even if I do try and apply for disability, what am I going to tell them? They're going to like tell me I'm making it up. So I just had so much judgment, guilt, and shame.
You didn't have a lot on your side at the time to like really try to go for things that could have been helpful.
Yes. And I'm just
no one can blame you for thinking that way.
And also disability is very intimidating because they're like, well, you need to prove that you're going to be sick for another 6 months to a year. And it's like, what? I don't want to. And that my mind at the time too, this was like last summer where I'm like, I don't want to commit to being sick for 6 months to a year. Like that in my mind. I was like,
I can totally, I get it.
I don't want to, whatever.
But actually,
so I never did. I never applied for disability. I regret it. And it would have been helpful because obviously finances have been so difficult and scary.
But that's okay.
That's okay.
Shit happens.
But
also in that video that we're going to link, kind of exciting what they said.
Oh yeah. So now officially long COVID is protected under ADA. So that has been
incredible.
I spent the last year and a half in just angst of I need to work, but I cannot get a job because I can't tell people that I have this because then they're not going to hire me.
Right.
And then if they do hire me and I crash for 3 weeks and I can't go to the office, it was like I felt like I couldn't win.
Right.
So
But now,
and also I don't know how long this has been a thing. I think it might just be recent, but now if you have long COVID and this is your reality, you are protected to be able to get employed and have all kinds of things set up for you so that you can work.
Yeah.
And so
I need it. It's amazing.
It is amazing. This is all, like Jamie said at the beginning, it's amazing how everything's coming together all at once because Jamie had a birthday on Cinco de Mayo.
Hey.
It's always Cinco de Mayo. But
just this year.
This year was Cinco de Mayo. And every other time it's May 5th.
No, wait. I chose to go to Six Flags because I am very lucky to have friends who wanted to go. Thank you to you guys. But who wanted to go, who still love roller coasters. Because listen, guys, I get it. Not everyone is either into them ever or into them anymore. But for those of you like Meg who still love them. And actually also, I remember being like, is this a good idea for you to get tousled around?
I think it was a bad idea. I think it definitely exacerbated my symptoms. Okay. But I didn't want to like make you feel bad.
Oh,
but no, no, Jamie just had her moment. No, but so the reason I bring it up is because I said I would love to go, Jamie, but realistically, there's no way I'm going to make it through a day at a theme park. I can't walk that long.
And it's huge because it's up hills.
And I'm like,
just like
am I going to give, or I could do it, but am I going to give the next 3 weeks to this one
I didn't want you to.
And she didn't want me to. So I looked it up on what it was, a disability support at a theme park, because they have wheelchairs.
Yeah.
And so sure enough, it was like, you fully qualify. You can get this accessibility card
because
it's
amazing.
You can't wait in long lines. You can't walk long distances for like the whole day. So
I'm so excited for you.
But I really still felt fucked up about it. It was to this day, I was like, I feel like I'm not disabled. I feel like I'm taking advantage of something because I have so many abled days now. But
no, you have to do the things that you need to do in order to like to save the to save yourself to have the experience.
Jamie had to literally talk me into it of like the services exist for people that have
that's why
needs.
they're there.
That's why they're there. But as somebody who's like, people have now seen me doing shows, there, you know, there are good days, but they don't see what I do to pay for it.
And this is the other side of the coin with invisible illness as well, right? Because not only do people not see it, and as humans, you're like, don't see it, don't believe it, right?
Yeah.
You need seeing is believing,
Yeah.
unfortunately. And so if they don't see it, they're like, I don't get it. And to everyone, again, kind of going back to us being like, have a headache, just take a pill, duh. It's also like, oh, you are sick? Well, you don't look sick.
You don't look sick.
That's not, illness is not one thing.
Well, and that's what really was helpful for me. At this point, I don't like being on the hashtag chronic illness or like any of those feeds because they're kind of triggering now for me. But when I first started to dive into it and I saw video after video after video that were so validating, people saying it is so difficult to have an invisible illness that has some good days because those are the days people see you, right? That's the
like,
weird
oh, you're
math.
probably fine. I don't get it. It's like that day.
That's because I'm able to see you today. I'm able to be here today.
You don't live with all your friends.
No, you don't live with your friends.
I mean,
well,
you could
kind of live with Jamie because of how often she's at the house.
I am not all of your friends. What I'm saying is that like you don't collect all your friends at the end of the day and we all just like sleep together in one bed. Be like, see,
adorable.
See?
That'd be kind of fun. I'm just saying. But so yes, literally that was what 2 weeks ago, and I'm still over here like I don't want to take advantage of the service, but holy shit, we got the wheelchair. Jamie pushed me around. Happy birthday to you. Her butt looked great. I said, this is training for your
I'm flexing. If you're watching the YouTube, I'm flexing right now.
Because just that bicep got ripped from pushing me around.
No, but, and my butt. Listen, to any friends out there, I'm just saying, you want to know how you get my butt? You fucking walk up some stairs. You push your friend in the wheelchair. You do the damn thing. Okay?
But no, it was, when I tell you, I almost cried at the end of the day, just having been like, I needed that. I needed the support. I needed the wheelchair. And
we had a great day.
We had a great day, and I wasn't worried the whole day. I wasn't going. And anyone that has post-exertional malaise knows this. You spend every day worrying and waiting of like, what's going to fuck me up?
Right.
And just knowing that I could just sit there and enjoy myself and be like, I'm not panicking right now because I'm just cruising. It was so funny because literally my grandma was in a wheelchair towards the end of her life, and I remember we'd push her and people would have a conversation and she'd go, what? And someone had to lean down and tell her what everyone had said.
That's what I did all
literally
day.
The group of friends is chatting behind me, and I'm like, this is so funny. I'm having this experience
with your son. You were the grandma with like your sun hat on.
Big sun hat.
Yeah.
And I had like my blanket over my
But
lap.
I would make sure to come in front of her too and be like, so we were just talking about.
It was so funny. She'd be like, so Meg. It was so funny.
Well, I wanted to make sure we were all in the conversation.
Yeah.
But it was I loved that day because you guys all showed up for me and we all were there doing the thing, but also that you were able to have such a good time. Like I knew we were saving. That's why also I was cool pushing you around because I was like, I knew how much this was saving you all day.
Yes.
Because we went on like so many rides and we went all over the park, and it just, I know that it's, well, weeks later didn't save you, but that day it saved you.
Well, I didn't have like an epic crash. Like I've just been consistently not able to pull out of this flare for some reason. It hasn't gotten worse.
I do also, and you've mentioned, we literally talked about this in episode 1 with the squirrel costume too, you know, for people who are like, well, but I saw you out, or you did the show and you do all these things. Yeah. You're not going to go out for the day and just tell the world, but I feel like shit though.
Right.
Like, cause that's lame too.
No, I don't want people to, I don't want to bring
annoying.
that up.
And it's like, no, I'm not saying it's annoying, but you know, like you don't want to feel, no, that's not what I meant.
Oh my God.
No. But you like when something's bothering you, like you feel like you're being annoying talking about it so much. And so you even said though, even when you feel like garbage lately, you've been like, I have to get out of here, change your state. I have to get out of here and go do the thing. So you force yourself to go do the show and have a good time because you want to do the activity that makes you feel good and forget about what you're feeling for a second.
Like I hosted Thunderbolt in this past Halloween.
Yeah.
And everyone was like, oh my God. And it was. I mean, I got through that show. I was devastated. That was like physically devastating. And then I was sick for 2 months.
It was really hard to watch.
I actually like all the way through the new year. I did the show October 30th. And I think it was November, December, and like part of January.
It was a little hard to watch.
It was really bad. Again, I felt so fucked up about that people were like, but I saw you hosting Thunderbolt. And I'm like,
but you didn't see me afterwards.
You didn't see how much pain I was in the whole time. And you didn't see that I couldn't get out of bed for 2 months, or
Right.
I could, but I was messed up. But being able to take advantage of the wheelchair 2 weeks ago, last week, my buddy interviewing me, I want to validate whatever you're going through, because I still am in this moment struggling to validate this whole experience.
Yeah.
But I wanted to give you the first chapter. And again, we're going to give the second chapter where I got a lot more resources because I want to share those with everyone. It'll be a shorter episode. This was the bulk of it. But
Or will it?
yeah, well, who am I
You know
promising?
us. So this was part 1 of Meg's story in detail. So just make sure, guys, thank you again so much for joining this conversation today and every conversation that we have. We really love having you here, our chronic community. But make sure you are, wherever you're listening to this, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, iHeartRadio. I listen to that sometimes.
Oh.
We're in all the places. So not only make sure that you're tuning in every single week, which we appreciate if you are, but make sure you are subscribed, you're following, so you know when new episodes come out, because you want to make sure you know when episode or part 2 of this comes out next Wednesday. Yeah. Also, anytime you guys can give us 5 stars, leave a review. Listen, nobody wants to leave a review. It sucks to do all that online.
Listen, the heart of this, the reason why is it's not because we're like, we're trying to be famous podcasters. No,
we want to grow the community.
I'm trying to create the thing that I needed all these dark months. If even this episode reaches the person that needs to hear it, who is at their wit's end, that's the victory here. Yeah. If one person. So that's why we're saying, like, please engage actively if you're listening, because I want to create more support for people.
100%. And so, yeah, so make sure to follow, subscribe, not only on...
Tell your friends, tell your moms, share
this episode, share any episode that really resonates with you. You can also follow us everywhere at chronic_pod on the YouTube if you want to watch us, not just listen to us, on Instagram, on TikTok, and
part 2 next week, and then I swear we're done with the bulk of all this, and we're going to have a palate cleanser after that. That's just going to be fun, good times.
Fun, fluffy, fun, good times. Fun, fluffy, fun.
It's really for me. Palette cleanser.
We love to see it.
Thank you, Jamie, for your amazing support and listening to me.
Thank you so much. Seriously, thank you for sharing all of that, because I know it's not easy for you and you don't love it, but thank you so much.
Yay.
You're the best. All right, guys. See you next week for part 2.
Bye.